National champion way back when with North Kakalaki in 2005, 5-year NBA veteran and a lengthy overseas playing career, and the first ever champion in the Big Three, Mr. Rashad McCants. Rashad, first and foremost, big shout out to you, my man. Appreciate you having you on the show tonight.
I appreciate you having me, man. Big ups.
All right, we got plenty to get to. We're going to talk about your streaming service, and of course, look, you've had quite a few viral moments here as of late, chopping it up with your boy Gilbert Arenas. But number one, let's talk about where are things at right now, or kind of give me a perspective of where things are at right now with North Carolina basketball. I'm a Jayhawk myself, so right now I feel like college basketball is in such a weird place with NIL, with the transfer portal. Your boy Hubert Davis, I mean, he's doing the best he can, but it just seems like, why are we seeing these blue bloods struggle the way they are?
Well, recruiting. I think that when you still have this, they have this fossilized mindset when it comes to Carolina basketball and the Carolina way. And they had an opportunity to get Wes Miller, who could have gave a younger perspective to recruiting and what the kids are looking for. It's no knock on Hubert, but when you're talking about recruiting and who you want to play for, what James Harden is doing down at Arizona State is he's allowing himself to be a booster to recruit the kids in and give them NIL money.
Yeah.
So for Carolina, they need to, readjust how they recruit and get these alumni to become boosters. These other Carolina players to come back and participate in getting guys. You're going to have to pay for players now. I mean, I think that's what it really comes to. You're going to have to pay and have a bankroll to get the best players.
Do you think, and look, we can all, I mean, again, I'm not naive. I know back in the day, y'all got the $100 handshakes, and look, hey, that's the way it worked, and there was nothing wrong with that.
Don't say y'all. Don't say y'all. Don't say
guys,
y'all.
People in general, certain athletes. Y'all were getting, wait, you guys weren't getting $100 handshakes over in?
I didn't get. I just said I wish I was a little bit taller. I didn't. But go ahead, keep going.
Well, you should have went to Lawrence. See, that's where you messed up. That's okay. You won a national title. I ain't mad at you for that. But I've heard, though, too, where guys are starting to realize, and whether it's the Mick Cronins of the world, who, I mean, if you give him a microphone, he's got no problem telling you how he feels, where he's like, you got guys, and Penny Hardaway talked about this, where guys are realizing, okay, they get that bag, and if they realize, well, maybe they're not going to go to the NBA, you give them $2-3 million, they're good. And maybe they're not playing with the same ferocity or the same intensity that maybe, you played with back in the day when you were trying to get to the league. How do you remedy that?
Well, please tell me what good is. When you say you're good, what does that mean?
Yeah.
We have to identify that, especially when you don't have any financial literacy whatsoever. You can't tell me any real kids coming from a place of never having over $50,000 that's going to come up with a $2 million budget and be able to finance it for the next 5 years without going to the NBA. There's no blueprint for that. They don't teach that in school. And they wouldn't even know to hire a financial advisor to do that in the NIL situation because you're so young. The expectation that I fought against was that we put in a sports education program that specifically identified athletes to come to school for sports. They didn't do that. So now they just allowed the agents to come in to pay for the players. Mm-hmm. And now you're not going to have anything but just a bunch of all-stars on one team, and they're leaving after 1 year.
Let's elevate it a little bit and talk about the National Basketball Association now. What do you think the problem with this whole face of the NBA talk has been? It's been a popular conversation right now. I think a lot of people are pointing to the point where your top 6 or 7 players are international players. Do you think an international player can be crowned the face of the NBA? Do you think it is somebody? Do you think there even should be a face of the NBA?
I mean, I think that those conversations are self-explanatory because when you look back through the years, the last 10 years has been Steph Curry. You can argue that LeBron James is right there because his name is polarizing and he's been a part of different eras where it was the Kobe Bryant era, the Steph Curry era, but LeBron has always been second place in both of those. So when you look at now, the Ant-Mans and the Shays and the Tatums they don't have the resiliency to fight through the sensitive topics and the criticism that we're going to give them for being a top dog. I think that, they're afraid of it.
Rashad McCants, NBA veteran and NCAA champion, joining us here, talking all things basketball here on 105.3 The Fan. You had a 5-year NBA career, and then you spent about a decade overseas. You've talked ad nauseum about, the injuries that you suffered and what have you. You talked a little bit about the Kardashian curse and what have you. What would you say, now that you've had some time to look back on things, and, now, like I said, you're talking to Gilbert and the guys, and for those that don't remember, Rashad McCants had no problem getting to the rack. When you look back at your career, what's the one thing you wish you'd have done differently?
I don't know, probably continue to talk about my career and how I can't do nothing about it. I think it's a constant conversation when everybody wants to. When we become critics, everyone wants to kind of like go back on careers and remember things. But to me personally, what was. Mm-hmm. We lived the glory days. I'm just never been one of those guys. You can bring it up, you can think about it at times, but in this space particularly, you got to have tough skin, mm-hmm. and you got to know people are going to go look at your stats and say, "Oh, you didn't do this, you didn't do that," and you're not credible enough to talk about these guys. But I accept that challenge.
So when people do say that to you, how have you? I mean, look, you're 40 years old now, so obviously, trust me, I'll be 44 on Saturday. And something changes when you become 40. How does that conversation for you now versus maybe 10 years ago when people say, "Oh, well, you only played 5 years in the league, you can't talk the way you're talking," versus the way you do it now?
Well, I mean, it would diminish just being like if you're a regular person saying you'll never be able to reach the table to talk to these type of people because you haven't reached this type of level. There's no gatekeeping in conversations.
Yeah.
There's nobody can say that they're better than anybody else because they play more years or this and that and the other. Basketball, the game of basketball is the game of basketball, no matter how good you are. So if you played it and you understand it, you can talk it. You can walk it.
Yeah. Rashad, do you have a problem? A lot of some of the NBA players were kind of having critics saying the people talking about basketball have never played, kind of going back to your point, some of the people that are on the big networks who have never played basketball. Do you have a problem with those people heavily criticizing players, kind of, I don't want to say preying on their demise, but kind of waiting for failure? Or do you think if you're on that platform and you're playing for millions of dollars, you can be critiqued by anyone and it's all fair game?
Oh, it's definitely fair game because the media personalities that never played, they're nothing but fans. Yeah. They're the voice of the fans. So what are you trying to say is that the fans don't have the right to criticize or feel a certain type of way? I mean, majority of the time, Stephen A. and those guys are speaking from a fan perspective. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So it's not personal. It should never be personal because if they play, they know that, we communicate a different way.
Mm-hmm. And then when you look at another conversation that's been had the last couple of years, but especially this year, talking about the NBA ratings, the style of play, the fouls, the three-point shooting, do you think it's all overblown? Do you think this is something that can be fixed, should be fixed, or do you think the game of basketball is in a perfect place?
Oh, it's definitely not in a perfect place. We shoot more threes than we do even running offenses anymore. It's a lot of fundamentals that are lacking. I think there's a reason why people are upset about the game. It's changed a lot. When you stay with the fundamentals and the sense of urgency, the defensive concepts, when all of those things start to miss in the game, you got to find adjustments. You got to have accountability. And I think some teams still have it, but for the majority of the time, it looks like guys are just out here playing, for the check. And I think that's where we need to find out how to challenge guys a little bit more.
Well, and you know what? You hit the nail on the head there because look, and I'm in the same vein, right? Like, look, I love watching basketball, and Austin Rivers had a great rant the other day where he said, you can go to LA Fitness and he'll dunk on somebody. I'll be like, man, you played in the, yeah, because he did. You guys played in the NBA, like you were one of the best basketball players on the planet. Which for those of us, weekend warriors, I mean, we get off on that kind of thing, right? Yeah. How do you fix that, though, when you're talking about, and I'm just going to use an example, right? Jaren Jackson Jr., okay? Like, look, you're a basketball guy, so, of course, Rashad McCants knows who Jaren Jackson Jr. is, but the average NBA fan may not, okay? Yeah. If Homeboy gets the Defensive Player of the Year award, guess what? He's eligible for a 5-year, $345 million contract. Okay? Mm-hmm. Now, look, I'm not trying to pocket watch here, but are we really going to give Jaren Jackson Jr. $70 million a year?
But do you have to?
Well, and that okay, great, because here's the thing. The Mavericks decided we're not giving that to Luka Doncic. So if Luka Doncic isn't worth that, then who is?
And you can speak on that trade as well while you're at it.
I mean, if you think about it, you don't have to give them what they ask for. That's just what they can be worth in the market. So if you don't pay it, someone else can. You know, the opportunity for them to get him off the books to not have to have that conversation is one thing.
Yeah.
And for the Lakers to have to deal with uncertainty in the free agency and him not even wanting to be there and going to chase the money he lost in the back end deals he can get in free agency. I mean, I wouldn't sign back with the Lakers no matter how far we went.
Really?
Because I need to make that money up.
Yeah.
So
if I re-sign with them, I mean, there's no guarantee I get that money back.
So if you were, let's just even do a hypothetical, Nico Harrison, if y'all could have swapped places, would you have also called up the Lakers and made that deal to move on from Luka?
You know what? I think if I'm Nico, I would have did something more to cement my name in the history books. I think he tried, but it was a bad attempt because it's going to leave a bad taste in everybody's mouths about what Luka's going to end up doing. But I would have put it up for auction for the whole NBA.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have hit it. I think we would have turned the whole NBA upside down simply because no one's going to expect Luka to be up for sale.
Well, you got look. You ain't wrong about that. I mean, February 1st, 11:30, and I don't know what side of the country you're on, but we're sitting here in Dallas at 11:30, and everybody's thinking this can't be real. What was the first? A, how did you find out? And B, what was the first thing you thought of when you found out it was true?
Oh, man, it was so funny because I think AD feels the same way I feel. There's no way no one else knew about this deal, and they had it. They had it going for weeks. Yep. It was weeks and weeks of this deal. And how are we going to get this and keep this quiet, and who we're going to give it to, and how can it make sense for us? And, you know, I think it's beautiful when you talk about a tactic to keep it quiet. They keep it inside as Rob and Nico are good friends, you know. So if Nico does get fired, he'll be hired right away.
So let me ask you this, and I don't know where you stand on conspiracy theories, but you know I'll traffic in them from time to time, not recklessly, but from time to time. The Thursday before the trade, Detroit and the Mavericks were playing in Detroit. Adam Silver was at the game
in Detroit.
Okay? Now, look, you know the NBA a whole hell of a lot better than we do. Why on earth would Adam Silver be in Detroit on a Thursday, on a nondescript Thursday, and you going to tell me that him and Nico didn't have a conversation about the biggest trade in NBA history?
You know who has the power to veto certain trades, right?
Absolutely. I mean, you saw Donald Sterling. I mean, Donald Sterling didn't have a problem vetoing trades.
Hey, I mean, I'm just saying Chris Paul was supposed to go somewhere. He didn't get to go.
Do you think the NBA was behind this? Or I don't know, not to get too crazy, but...
Okay, let's just say this. It's just, like you said, hypotheticals, allegedly, whatever you want to call it. Did the ratings go up?
Oh, yeah. Most viewed basketball game since opening night.
All right.
I want to ask you a question on more of a personal level. Obviously, if you could just tell all of our fans listening kind of how you got introduced to Gil's Arena and kind of what that is like behind the scenes. I think a lot of people see maybe clips on social media and don't really see what's really behind it, kind of the work that goes into it, how you got introduced to those guys, and kind of what y'all's life, and if y'all do interact outside of the camera.
Man, I just got to say, man, Gilbert Arenas is just one of a kind, man. He's a saint, man. He's always looking out for everybody around him, and we met at the gym. Randomly, you know, he asked me if I had a podcast. I said no. He said, man, if JJ can have one, you can have one, man. Come to mine. And he had this whole concept of an ESPN-style panel with just comfort and just talking shit. And they signed me up. And ever since, it's just been, you know, it's the chemistry, Batman and Joker.
No, the chemistry definitely is. I mean, you guys certainly, and you alluded to it, you alluded to it earlier about, you know, you guys having thick skin, talking smack to each other.
You read the comments, Rashad?
I was going to say you and Pat Beverly getting into it.
Oh, yeah.
Like, do you know going into these, you're just going to go ahead and just, hey, it's you know, it's kind of like no different than being on a basketball court.
No. It's dependent on, like, your character. Like,
okay.
If you're the type of person that you have information that other people don't, and you can correct them in real time in a conversation about certain things, it creates a debate, and debates are fun when you know what you're talking about. And then if you're just trolling at one point, it's like poker, right? You got a bad hand, but I'm still in the game, and I might just get this hand and bluff you. I can bluff my way through a debate, talk absolutely nothing, and have him give up. And it's just a whole jousting match when it comes down to it. I think that's what we also create is the opportunity for it to be fun and funny and not so serious with the suit and tie and the things you can say. I think that's what we're leading towards in the new media.
Rashad McCants joining us, talking all things basketball. We're gonna get to move around TV here in just a second, but I got to ask because you got the unique perspective of. Look, you played for a blue blood. You were McDonald's All-American. You've played in the Big Three. You spent time overseas. If there's a basketball involved, there's a good chance Rashad McCants has done it in some form or fashion. What can the NBA learn from the overseas game, and do you see a time, because we've already heard, your boy Rich Paul's involved in this somehow, some way, that we're going to see an intersection of European basketball and the NBA?
Mm-hmm. Well, you guys were probably fans of Dirk Nowitzki coming over and being as polished as he was, right?
Of course.
And then you fast forward to all the Europeans that you guys have had through the years, including Porzingis, Luka, that they came over polished because there's a certain system overseas that's established, and that's fundamentals first. They hone in on 2-3 times a day, fundamentals, ball work, shooting, all those different things. And the European game is the college game, so it's more team oriented. You still got no 3 seconds, so they have 5 people in the lane. It's not really a pro set style, so the guys that come over from the Euro League and all of the different international games, they're very crafty. They're very good basketball players overall. They might not be athletic, but they're very good.
I would be doing myself a disservice and all the people listening if I didn't ask if you had any practice story that maybe you have shared, or you like sharing, or haven't shared. Do you want to give us a quick snippet of it? Just the people listening at home that think that maybe they can hang in an NBA practice, or maybe think that they know what goes on in an NBA practice. If you wanted to just shed some light on that would be great for us.
Oh, man. Just my welcoming into the NBA, my first practice with the Timberwolves, I was out with a hamstring injury, but I was sitting on the sideline, and KG was just cussing everybody out. When I say cussing, MF, everything. And he's looking over at Kevin McHale, and he's like, man, F you, get your ass up, come out here, I will wreck your ass right here too. You ain't nothing to me. And I looked at Wally Zerbiak, I said, yo, what the hell is this? He said, oh, this is just KG being KG. This is nothing. This is nothing. He does this all the time.
I love the Wally Zerbiak impersonation. Any good MJ at North Carolina stories that you can share with us?
MJ used to always come in to our practices before we played Duke, I believe, to kind of motivate and take a picture with us and such. And he always tried to bet us half court shots immediately. He wants to see who can challenge him and beat him. And
right.
There was always only one.
Yeah, was it you?
Always.
Yes, now, did you ever play Michael one-on-one?
Not one-on-one, but we matched up at his Jordan camp quite a few times. We have quite a few stories of him asking for that North Carolina boy. I want that North Carolina boy. Where he at? Where he at? He talks so much shit. Where he at?
All right, I got to ask, because me and my co-hosts do this once a week, once every 2 weeks. MJ or LeBron?
Excuse me?
MJ or LeBron?
What version of LeBron is better than any version of Michael Jordan?
The only thing I'll concede is that post 36-year-old LeBron. I'll give a little bit of leeway to post 36-year-old LeBron. Because I never thought
like the last 4 year LeBron.
basically the last 4 years LeBron.
The guy who hasn't won anything.
Well, you're
gonna go with that to be your post GOAT push.
Well, no. Look, I'm an MJ guy. Look, don't get it twisted. I'm MJ to the. Me and Blake have shut down hours of the show about that. But All I'm saying, for what I will say this, being a basketball fan, I appreciate and respect what LeBron's doing at this age. And I never thought I'd say that he looks actually better now that Luka's come on the scene. And I don't think it's a coincidence that, of course, he had no problem with AD leaving. Look at the way, this dude looks like he's 35 right now playing with Luka Doncic.
Well, let me ask you a question. If Mr. Miyagi went to the playground to fight the little kids, how would it look?
Oh, he'd kick all their ass.
All right.
Fair enough. All right,
he's Mr. Miyagi out there, man. He's too smart. He's too wise.
That's it.
Come on, man.
That's fair. I ain't mad at you for that. You like the Lakers to you like their chances to win a title now?
They have a better chance. I think it depends on who they match up with in the playoffs, but they've gotten a little bit better.
Okay.
Still fool's gold for me, though. Still fool's gold.
Okay. I'll keep that in mind. We'll talk again when playoffs roll around. Move Around TV. Tell me about this new Rashad McCants endeavor, and when you're going to become a mogul. And if you need a couple of sports radio hosts to chime in, let me know.
Well, it's a scripted television network where we allow content creators to be themselves and monetize 100%. It's similar to Netflix, YouTube, but we also allow, live streaming, other things to collaborate with different sponsors and advertisers, and it's sports-based. So we get all your pop culture in one place.
And what's it called?
Move Around TV.
Move Around TV, and you're the this is your baby?
I got a few people with me.
Okay.
We'll just say we're sharing it with everybody.
Fair enough. Mr. McCants, it has been an absolute pleasure having you jump on the show with us tonight. I can't thank you enough for your time. And if you're game, let's do this again when the playoffs start.
Sure.